Alright, testing. Is this live? Is YouTube gonna give us the boot again tonight? Hopefully not, but we'll see. Hello, welcome to my first painting stream. Tonight we're gonna be doing this adorable little dude from Rail Raiders. Camera's not gonna focus on him yet. I'm still getting used to this, it's inverted. And I can't get it to rotate around the way that I want. Something to solve for future streams, I suppose. I don't know, this camera came with its own software, but I can't use it with OBS. I think for these we're gonna have a reference for what I'm painting. This little dude from a game called Rail Raiders, game by Sodapop Games. Maybe you've heard of them. They've done Super Dungeon Explorer, which is just fun and cute, and they do everything like these little cartoony, chibi style miniatures. It's a nice little change from doing super gritty 40K Infinity and what have you. And of course I'm thinking we're gonna have like a meme of the week. This one I love because they use spare bits to make an orc motorbike. One of the things I like the most about orc miniatures is you use whatever the hell you want. For those of you unaware or don't know anything about 40K orcs, their technology is powered by probably works like that. Yeah, red paint makes you go faster there, boss. Whatever they believe to be correct is the way that things work. You can give them an empty gun and tell them it's loaded and it'll fire. I thought this boy was primed more than he was. I have noticed several parts that weren't, so I'm just going over it with my surface primer. Some people like rattle cans. I don't, as I paint off stream. Good work. Gotta get used to that. So this camera rig's a lot better than my old one. My old one was jank as fuck. Cause I was balancing my phone on a bunch of C-clamps hanging off of my desk. And that didn't go well. I had this annoying camera app and I had to bounce my phone signal through a third-party app that was probably recording everything to another website, and I had to capture the stream from that website and reroute that through OBS, and that was a mess. So I figured a proper camera would probably be a good idea. The focus is being annoying though. Spent a day trying to get this thing flipped. I'm just gonna have to paint further down. So it likes to focus on my desk. It doesn't like to focus on whatever's in the middle of the screen. Let's see. Let's play with this a little bit. What can I do with my camera? Camera control. Exposure is auto. Can zoom minorly. We disable autofocus. Okay. So now it seems okay. There we go. That seems like it'll focus a bit better. Either way, I'm gonna keep that tabbed. Oh yeah, just touching up a couple little parts I think I wanted a bit more primer on. I seal my stuff afterwards, so the primer is really more just for a painting surface. For those of you who are unaware or are new to the hobby, priming paint is really just to give you a surface so that your paint will actually stick to it. That's about it. If you're sealing your stuff afterwards, it's not a huge deal. For the record, I just use Vallejo Black Surface Primer. And as I said, the camera's inverted, otherwise things would be a little weird. I can't get it to rotate. first stream we're gonna have some issues. Because YouTube's weird about background music and isn't like Twitch where it just auto mutes your shit afterward. And because I actually am gonna be giving tips and what have you. Put on whatever playlist or what makes you comfy. Like that's always what I've done. Whether that is power metal or you like something else, you do you. I used to know one guy who painted to Gregorian chants. I don't know what he's doing now. Okay. So, I thought he was just going to be painted black on his coat and hat. No, as we can see in the reference, he is styling. So we're going to take a little beaten purple from Privateer Press. And I got my wet palette from Redgrass Games. I was never really sold on wet palettes for a while. And then, well, I got this one as a Christmas present. I decided to try it. And, well, it worked out pretty good. I did some kind of crazy stuff with it. Honestly, you can, with most paints, you can just paint straight out of the pot. Especially if you're not doing anything too fancy. Just make sure to wipe off the excess on your brush. You never want your paint to go on chunky. Nobody likes chunky paint. Otherwise you'll get those. You get one of those miniatures that looks like you put a hair dryer on it. Right? Like you paid a lot of money for these, you want them to look good. And I think I put too much water on my wet palette because this paint is, you can see it's sort of beading rather than going on smooth. But I also primed this miniature like months ago. Actually, I haven't painted in like 2 months, so this is as much of a testing out my new camera as much as it is getting back on the horse. Sometimes life gets in the way, and sometimes you just don't feel like doing it. And I found a mold line that I can get rid of. Whatever. That's fine. Will now be the where the brim is joined to the head. That's where that detail will be. That'll be white in the middle of that? Okay. Well, no, I don't feel so bad about painting purple over it. So let's just go purple in there too. Painting white directly on black is a pain in the ass. For those unaware, darker colors will tend to make lighter colors go on splotchy, and lighter colors tend to shine through darker colors. So you gotta find happy little transitioning and helper colors. The main two big ones people have problems with are painting white and yellow. I can't say anything for yellow, but the trick with white is gray. Prime gray, and then paint in shades of gray. And then use stark white as your actual edge highlight. A trick I actually learned from my local game store. Dude has an army of white scars from 40k, for those unaware. White scars are, well, their armor's all white. Stark, shiny white. And he told me the trick was just blend shades of gray. Blend them right on the model. Or use a wet palette. Either or. And just layer it. It comes with practice. Oh, this autofocus really is not fantastic. I guess it'll come with practice. Maybe I should raise this C-clamp. I'm still using the C-clamps to suspend the camera, it's just that the camera's got a nice little hook on it. So it's not like my phone where it's just precariously balanced. Like this ain't going nowhere. Personally, I've never really been a fan of base coating miniatures. I like doing the small details. But for those of you who are just getting into the hobby, Base coat everything before you start doing details on anything. As the base coating will teach you the necessary brush control required to do the fancy details without making a mess of your earlier work. You know, a lot of my first miniatures looked not great way back in the day. Everything's splotchy, edges need cleaned up. I can go back and touch them up now. Yeah, you can always repaint them afterward, but I don't know, I keep mine as a showcase of my progress, right? I don't remember where you started. Nobody was just good at this stuff overnight. Unless you like, cranked out an entire squad immediately overnight. At which point, yeah, okay, you probably got a lot of good experience in that 12, 16 hours straight that you were painting. Maybe, maybe not. Find some royalty-free music for this. I'm thinking lo-fi. Everybody's doing lo-fi now. But if you don't want your channel stricken down. And again, does that really only matter if you're doing like your channel's monetized? Or is it like everybody is subject to copyright strikes? Especially, I actually take commissions, so, you know. Maybe best to not do that if I am technically running a business. Yeah, just little bits on the brush. You typically want to work with the bottom 2/3, where the bristles actually meet the. Come on, camera, where are you? This is weird for me. Okay, so where the bristles actually meet the metal, there you wanna leave that top third blank, because if the paint actually gets in there, like it splays the bristles, and the brush will never work well again. Also, if you're gonna use washes, everybody uses washes when they're starting out. I still use washes. Get a separate brush for that, which is not a thing I learned until recently, because those washes destroy brushes, especially the fancy technical paints that Games Workshop sells. They just ruin brushes. And on the topic of brushes, just stick with the little cheapy dollar store ones. Or like Army Painter's what I'm using, but you can't tell because the logos are all worn off. I've used this one that heavily. Yeah, you can get a $15 brush, but it will be actively detrimental to you, and you will destroy it if you are still starting out and don't know what you're doing. In fact, one of the greatest painters that I've seen, the guy's won something like 5 Golden Demons, which is a big painting award. Games Workshop, Citadel Games gives out every year at their Adepticon, what have you. Little conventions with their painting contests. Golden Demon's the big first place winner, and this dude's won 5 of them using dollar store brushes. You don't need the fancy shit. Tools don't make the tradesman. Learn to produce a masterwork with garbage. Actually, one that I finished recently, using again dollar store brushes. And I'm ashamed that I even own this. Primaris Librarian. I gave him some little fireballs that he's shooting out of his hand. And that's all it was. Just I was trying out some stuff with wet blending and some different way of edge highlighting. I don't think I actually used a wash on him technically. Just on the face. I always use washes on the faces. And you just gotta try stuff as you go through with different miniatures. Good way to practice is Reaper Miniatures makes a bunch of little cheap ones. Like $1.50 each, depending. Just buy a handful of those and just try stuff, anything that tickles your fancy. Especially if you want to try open source lighting, like, they have some good ones to practice on for that. I don't know, I was never really a fan of OSL. I kind of viewed it as a gimmick. Okay, great time. Now I actually mix my paints on the wet palette, so we're just kind of gonna eyeball a gray here with far too much black, and that's gonna dry in. I'm gonna waste that, and a bit of white. Just again, privateer press. Or no, these ones are actually Vallejo. Yeah, just black and white. Nothing fancy. You can buy pre-made grays if you want, but I don't feel like owning a bunch of shades of gray. I'm gonna use once in a blue moon. Okay. You might note that I've kind of mixed it up in a shade like, or slight gradient. And what I'm going to do is we're going to work our way dark over to the light. Just a little bit. Slowly and iteratively. Blending paints, everybody's got their different way that they say to do it. Some people say use circular motions. Some people use vertical like little vertical strokes. That's what I like to do. Bob Ross always said, don't mix your paint dead. But that depends. If you're trying to make a surface look like it's got a little bit of texture to it, then yeah, don't mix your paint consistent and let it sort of not separate out, but still have those little almost tiger stripes at it when you're looking at it on the palette. Ah, goddamn. Yeah, this always happens when if you're gonna paint something, you prime it, like, get the painting in right away, or else paint's not gonna want to sit on it. Also depends on the miniature. I find Sodapop games, their miniatures don't like to have the paint stay on the surfaces, even if you prime it. Mind you, this primer is also pretty old at this point. I should probably get some new stuff. I can give out as many little tips and bits of advice as I want, but a lot of this stuff you only learn by doing it. And what paints work for you and your style is one of the big ones. I can sit here and make recommendations all day based on what works for me, but that's what works for me. Entered a few local contests, and some of these guys insist, oh no, you gotta have all your different shades, and gotta use the right paint for the right thing. And I beat them by a country mile by popular vote for the contest. It's all a matter of what works for you. And of course, if you're not going in for anything fancy, you just I like to enter some local contests for painting, right? So I try to go over the top. If you just want some stuff to look nice, you bought that $500 board game with all the shit, you want the nice pieces to look good, yeah, just just a quick base coat, maybe a shade or two. You don't gotta go fancy. You don't gotta paint fucking marble granite on the bases. That's a detail I never fully managed to grasp yet. Tried painting marble a couple of times, but I don't know, I can't quite get it to look right. Cobblestone? Cobblestone I got down. Cobblestones are easy. Maybe I'll do that as a tutorial. Get some modeling putty. Just take a little hobby knife or scalpel, cut a couple lines in it. Just horizontally, make a few little offset grooves in between. And then, bow. Paint black, paint dark gray, dry brush, cobblestones. Look at this, I think I got some over here. It's a little dusty. Made that one years back. Yeah, just like that. Easy. Takes like a minute. Let's see, when did I start doing this anyway? Like in general. Technically, I first got into hobbying back in 2000-ish. Got it as a Christmas present the year my old man took me to the hobby show. And I think Games Workshop had just released the Tau for 40k. Because that was on the table at the time. And I just liked the little figures and the painting. And I was no good at it as a kid. And then I forgot about it for a while. And I got back into it about 8-9 years ago. And I just kinda went nuts, wanted to paint everything and anything. To play a lot of Dungeons and Dragons back when I was in school, so I like to have miniature for every character that I played. Maybe you want to as well. I gotta keep looking back over at the camera to make sure the figure's actually on screen. Yeah, maybe I'll actually move the references over to the other side. And yeah, it doesn't gotta be perfect. Bump my head on my studio light. On the topic of which, if you can get one of those little ring lights with the magnifier on it, those are fantastic for painting small details. His clothes are supposed to be black, and I'm gonna paint his little belts that he's got on his legs brown. Well, we're just gonna do, because he's already primed with black, we can cut a corner there. We're just gonna do one thin coat of black on him. And we'll move on to our details. Real easy like. God, I want quarantine to be over so I can go back to painting with a couple of friends. One of my friends is real big into board games. And he didn't want to pay me $20 a pop for commissions for every little piece. So we just took to watching shows on Saturdays, and that's what we do. Watch a show and we paint. And I've really been missing that for the last year. Man, if I'd known lockdown was gonna be this long, I would have hugged the homies tighter. You know? I miss my boys. Guess I can't complain too much, I do still have work. A lot of people hurting real bad financially right now. A lot of people got a bunch of stuff they don't want to think about. I don't know, hopefully this stream takes people's minds off of that. Just a little bit of painting. The gun's also black, so we're gonna a little 1950s sci-fi railgun. Not railgun, ray gun. Which again, we already primed it black, so just a thin layer of black. No, we'll do the top of the little cross on his hat first. That too. Yeah. We'll just do the top surface because I gotta paint white in the crevices down there. And for those of you who are just getting into the hobby, you're thinking, man, doing everything you just did would have taken me an hour, and you managed to do it in, I move that window, 20 minutes. Well, it comes with practice. You learn what corners you can cut, what brushstroke movements are the most effective. Well, you're only supposed to paint in one direction with your brush strokes, but I don't know, I find sometimes you gotta sort of smudge it onto the surface rather than flow it onto the surface, you know? Most important thing though is keep your brush wet. Constantly. Constantly keep your brush wet. One of my friends, he started playing Infinity years ago, and he destroyed 3 brushes his first day painting. When I asked him how, he was like, well, how often am I supposed to wet the brush? I'm like, constantly. It's acrylic paints, man. They tend to set on whatever not wet surface you put them on. See that? The brush, the model, your fingers, the the painting palette, be it wet or dry. No, a guy who paints with a dry palette, he just uses a shower tile. And for some people, that works. For me, because I like blending and working with some colors that I can't just buy, I invested in a nice little wet palette. Tight so I can take it traveling with me. And stop in the middle of a project, pack it up, take it over to my buddy's house. Paints are still nice and moist when I get over there. Well, I stopped the project for a month once and I went back to it. My paint was still wet. So, Red Grass Games palette's a good one. I like it. I'm not being sponsored by that. I've been using it for like a year and a bit. Year and a half? Beverage of the evening is Stranger Than Fiction. Yeah, let's see. What was one of the first ones that I... Oh man, that is dusty. Holy shit. I forgot you were back there. Until I started talking about when I first got my palette. Jeez. Okay, I'm not showing that on camera. That is covered in dust and cat hair. I forgot that was still out on my desk. Oh. Actually, the last project I was working on, Necron's got an update. Back when 9th edition... No, not back when 9th edition dropped, but like a little while back. And I bought their model for Illuminator Ceres. I was working on that for a little bit before I just kind of fell off the painting horse for about 3 months. See this bit right here, dude, that's getting liquidated. That is come on, camera. Which way are you oriented? That right there is a nightmare to actually put together, because it's like you have the back of his head, the top of his head, the front of his head are 3 separate parts. And this bit up here is attached to his forehead by a very thin little contact point there. and then there's another layer that is on his hand, and another layer up top that's going into the robot's hand, and it's the worst. It is the worst trying to actually paint that stuff and put it together. Really cool model. Okay, I don't even play Necrons. I wanted it. I saw it and I wanted it, so I got it, and I've regretted it every day since. I'm gonna touch up some more purple on the hat. Why buy something that you would regret? You know how some people do cocaine and they know that it's bad for them, but they keep doing it? It's like that. It's like, yo, that would look well. However, instead of yo, I want to burn out my sinuses and maybe start a business or a pyramid scheme, it's yo, I want that on my shelf. I need more purple. Need more purple. This priest is gonna be naked when orcs see him. For those of you who don't know, purple's a stealthy color. Because have you ever seen a purple orc? Yeah, that's what I thought. No, you haven't. Of course, I've seen somebody posit one theory that if red's the color that makes you go faster, blue's the lucky color, because purple is red and blue mixed. You're just going so fast that you happen to be, and you're just going incredibly fast, and you are lucky enough to not be where people are looking. So you are moving in between where people are looking conveniently, and that's why purple's the stealthy color. Orc logic. I love orc logic. They're just so goofy and they're just so fun to paint. You can do whatever you want and it's probably fine. Especially I think I painted flash kits the last time I actually did a stream, back when I did one on Twitch. And they are particularly fun because while the orcs themselves in that kit are not very customizable, the guns are. You actually get to build those SNAS guns from the ground up, from a comedically large selection of parts. And so you get to sit there and play orc weapons engineer and decide why what guns are built the way that they are. I built one that has only got one giant barrel and has 4 magazines and 4 bullet belts feeding into it. And the idea is, yes, there is a right bullet to kill every enemy, but only a grot spend the time figuring out which bullet is the right one. So just fire all your bullets at once and the right one's going to be in that volley. It'll be in there. It'll hit them. See? Makes perfect sense if you're an orc. And of course, remember, orc guns are not for killing people. They are for making brilliant amounts of light and noise, and maybe intimidating lesser enemies. If you're gonna kill somebody, get in there and crump them real good. Right, proper. I don't know. Personally, I still prefer overwhelming firepower. Which is weird that I play Space Wolves instead of Imperial Guard. Or I used to. I don't know. I haven't touched 9th edition. I've been out of the game since the start of 8th, because I hated the way that 8th edition played. We're gonna solve the problem of gun lines. And 8th edition was the most aggressive edition of gun lines I had ever goddamn seen. Like, that was it. No matter what meta or what new dumb bullshit they released for Primaris, it was always just Imperial Guard Bolter Trench. Why would you not? No reason to advance in melee. But you, whatever. If you wanted to, I won't go on about that. We're here to paint, not complain about Warhammer. Nah. I want to try and keep these streams positive. Been too negative for too long. Yeah. Need to touch up the purple. I need more purple. We are out of purple again. Purple I'm using is actually very close to Games Workshop purple that I liked. I think it was Zerus purple. But I can actually pronounce the name of this one, and it's significantly easier to mix lighter or darker. I don't know. Citadel does a weird thing with their paints, where they don't always mix in a way that makes sense. I don't know how to explain it. It's like you mix blue and red, like just regular blue, regular red, doesn't always come out purple. Like it might be a different kind of purple, if you know what I mean. They do a weird thing with the pigments because they want you to buy the right shade, right? They want you to buy like 5 more paints instead of just buying 2. And I've heard it posited by color theory people that you can paint everything using magenta, cyan, and lemon yellow. I personally hate lemon yellow. It's not a color I can paint with. I don't know, always goes on clumpy. But that's just kind of Vallejo's lemon yellow. I don't like it. I also wasn't really using it on a palette when I used it. It's too pale. Like it's a really pale yellow. Look at this. Look at that. It is a pale ass yellow. Compared to the one that I actually use, which is Aerial yellow. It's a bit darker. Bad Moon's yellow is another good one. So I'll give Games Workshop that. They actually have very good yellow paints. And the trick to painting yellow is to paint brown underneath. True story. Or mix it with a bit of black. You can actually mix that with a little bit of black and it turns into like a military green. And this is what I mean about G-dubs having weird paint pigmentation. And I took out way too much purple. And I'm not going to use it. The palette's nice and wet, so we'll see how well it keeps. Maybe I'll use it later for touch-ups. Easy peasy. No problems. Everything is okay. I know Bob Ross said happy little accidents, right? No mistakes, just happy little accidents. Sometimes you will find that the best effects that you get on your minis, or on whatever piece you're doing, is in fact a happy little accident. Like I did Doom Rider a while ago. For those of you unaware of Doom Rider, he is a demon prince in Warhammer who is he's just drugs, sex, and rock and roll. The guy. Right? That's what he does. He snorts warp dust, he rides his motorcycle at incredibly high speeds, and his head's on fire. For those of you aware of the old superhero, supervillain, Snowflame, a man who is pyrokinesis powered by cocaine, basically him. And that model looks rad as shit. The old one, not so much. I was inspired by a guy who did his own version, and it looked great. Alright, next he's got a little red tie, right? Okay, we're gonna grab a little bit of red. A little bit of Vallejo flat red. I gotta shake my paints. Because I have not used these in a hot minute. Red's always a tiny detail color with me. I don't really like painting red. It's a boring color. Everybody liked red as a kid. I liked green. Green was my favorite color. Still is. Nice soothing color. Is a calm color. And we're just gonna paint with the tip. Now some people would use a tiny brush for this, and it's one of the biggest gotcha buy like 20 fucking brushes when you first get into it. You don't need that. You're getting into it. You only need 3 brushes, okay? You only need your workhorse brush, which will normally be, this one was like Regiment was, I believe, this size. Should probably be translate to like the Games Workshop standard. A dry brush. I actually need a new dry brush. This one has been thoroughly destroyed. Or if you want one of these dry brushes, those ones are good too. This one's also been mostly destroyed. Dollar store makeup brushes, though. Okay, these things. I found a bunch of them when I was cleaning out my garage last year. Okay, these things, right? Makeup brushes for dry brushing, magic. Like, it is ridiculous how good these are. But then again, that's what they're for, right? I suppose. You know, contouring and shit. And then, I don't know, when you get into more advanced stuff, I bought a stippling brush, used it like twice. I found my dry brush was a better stippling brush. Then my stippling brush. What are you gonna do? And then, like I said, when your regular workhorse brush burns out, that will become your brush that you use for washes. And then you use it to experiment like I did on weird metallic color fades like these. That's not showing up too great on camera, but the highs are green, edged with silver, and the lows are like a weird sort of deeper greeny blue. Oh no, that was my prototype. That didn't. I actually experimented a lot on those legs. There's probably like 5 to 8 layers of paint on there from different things that I tried over the years. Okay. That's the white done. We'll clean up the cross. No, we won't clean up the cross because the white's inconsistent. And that's just it. You just iteratively. Sometimes you'll see a mistake that you made earlier you want to go back and fix. That's all you do. Alright, way to do it, as long as you're not one of those guys that uses an airbrush. Great for base coating and certain gradient effects, but we had a guy at my local game store who thinks he's the best painter ever and is the only person that can properly do lighting because he's got an airbrush. Problem is, I don't think the guy understands source lighting. Okay? Like the way you're seeing it now. Lighting is a more advanced thing with shading. Actually, light study is technically masterclass stuff, but I'm not going to get into that because I masterclass I tried to get into in terms of its types of techniques and way to apply things, and I bounced off that horse so hard I stopped painting for 6 months. Basically, I always go with a top-down light, right? So say the light's coming out of the camera, everything the camera can see there, or like there, that's the side that I'm gonna, those areas are where I'm gonna put a lighter shade on. This dude, just from whatever surface was raised in a particular direction, it was like he had 12 goddamn light sources on the thing he was painting. Say it was, I have a Contemptor Dreadnought here I've been meaning to paint for a year and a half, and I haven't. So we'll use this, right? Okay? Say it was light down from the top, so you'd have it on the 2 shoulders that would be there if they were there, at the top of the head, top of the top, and then maybe I'd also hit tops of the knee plates and the feet. This guy had like a light source here, 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 and on the back. Light doesn't work like that, okay? Don't buy an airbrush. An airbrush will actually make you worse instead of better. Want to use it to speed your base coating process? Absolutely. You want to use it for a cool gradient effect on energy weapons, which is how Games Workshop does it on all of theirs? Yeah, sure, go right ahead. But that's a whole nother set of techniques that you gotta learn if you're gonna do that. And it's just a lot of mess and cleanup, and the little air compressor is very loud. And I normally like to watch TV when I paint, so. Or listen to, I don't know, listen to spooky stories sometimes. I had a very greasy burger for dinner, so that's getting caught in my throat. Yeah. Went to Wendy's. I like Wendy's. I don't care what anybody says. Not even just for the memes, like even before the memes. Actually, that kind of fell off for a while. I haven't seen them any sort of jokes recently. Probably because everybody's memeing. Is Wall Street Bet still relevant? Is that one dead? It's still going? I don't know, I kind of lost interest. So we're just gonna very carefully, I'm just catching all the little edges. What I'm probably gonna do is I'm gonna go over all the little recesses in black to have it like little cartoon edges, little cartoon line work. Actually, kind of want to paint something in the Borderlands style, like the games, you know, that weird cell shaded art style. Problem is that stuff only works if you're looking at it from a particular angle, right? I've seen some people who do it, who have done it, and it looks real good, especially on orc models. I don't know, I'll give it a shot. Gotta find a good model to do it on. Okay, that's that done. I'll touch up the tile a little bit. That's one of the things I try to do to speed up my process, right? Is while paint's drying on one area, we go work on something else. That's one of the biggest ways to keep going. Gotta learn to keep working while stuff's wet. Especially with fabric, you can apply your second layer on it while it's still wet, and whatever gets pulled off and shows little darker bits underneath or comes on even brighter, sometimes it looks like fabric texture. And if you can learn how to pull that off, well, I mean, that's where a lot of Bob Ross's technique came in, right? So he did a lot of stuff while it was still wet. And he did a lot of wet blending. Is largely what his technique was. Which is you keep working with multiple paints in multiple colors while it's still wet, which is a lot easier when you have a wet palette because the paint doesn't really dry. Okay, we're gonna get a little bit of brown. We're gonna use Privateer Press's Blood Tracker Brown, which again I haven't used for a hot minute. Actually, here's one of the ones I was working on before I stopped last time. Another one of the Lawbots. This guy's more of a cowboy. He's still got a little bit of dust. It's very dusty in my room. That corner of the desk. You know, that is fun. It's like it's a sci-fi train robbery. Is what this board game is for those of you who are unaware. You get to play as a bunch of little cartoon cowboys who are all references to old shows. Cowboy stories. Huckleberry Finn is one of the characters. Jr. Billy the Kid. Geronimo. And you gotta rob a train, and you got a bunch of little Little sheriff robots trying to stop you. It's cute. It's fun. I dig the art style. Hang on, let me open my full scale version of that image. Is that a belt that he's wearing, or is that actually like a gold pocket watch? It's a belt. Okay. Ah, he actually does have a little priest collar now that I zoom way in. It's fine. It's fine. I'll touch it up later. We're just gonna very lightly catch that little raised edge belt. And it comes with practice. Keep your brush wet. Use a slightly larger brush than you think you need because you can fit more paint and more water on it. Tiny brush dries out faster. Which means you're going to get frustrated that the paint isn't transferring to the surface. And so you're going to push harder, you're going to push more, and then you're going to put on way more paint than you meant to as you break that dried surface layer. And for those of you, and I will be doing one on writing little brush script, yeah, that takes some doing and some practice. I'm still not super great at it. You may have seen a little bit of it on the librarian there, but when I showed that earlier, it's a bit out of practice when I did that. A little bit right. Excuse me, sorry. Right across there. Ah, no, I got the color. Ah. Right across there. Okay. Ugh, excuse me. And then it's fine, we just got a little bit of white on his collar in there. We're just gonna touch that right up. Bam. Good as new. No, that edge is highlighted for us, in fact. It's one of the nice things about messing up with white paint. Which is a thing I've seen people do with zenithal painting. Priming like black or dark gray, and then you just dry brush all the edges with a white or lighter gray. And so when you put on your coats, that lighter color shines through. And if you do it right, it'll save you a little bit of time on highlighting. But with the way that I do things, I'm kind of heavy with my colors, I guess you could say. So I never really see it shining through. You'll notice it on metals though. Whatever, if you're painting a light metal, like you want to paint a silver, base coat that in white. Base coat that in white. Maybe go over it in a quick black wash, and then paint your silver over it. And those whites will shine through, and your edges and raised surfaces will be a lot brighter, and your darks will be a lot darker. Which is actually, again, what I did with that librarian. And I don't have anything else for comparison right now, so. Okay, back to those little leggy belts. Little belts on his legs. You actually can't see it in that poster. I'm not sure if those are bullet belts or not. He got bullet belts down on his lower legs. That don't make sense. How are you supposed to reach those bullets? I mean, I suppose that's more of a problem for after the perp is dead. Wild West justice. Just like John Wayne would have done. Good old John Wayne. I'm actually not that big on cowboy movies. And again, I haven't really watched that many cowboy movies. Love the dude who plays the old, like, jailer or prospector in half of them. That guy's, I like him. He's funny. There was a cowboy movie on TV, and that guy was in it. I'd always tune in. Yo, his coat's red on the inside? Oh, fuck that. No, we ain't painted it red on the So, okay, I'm gonna paint it red on the inside. Okay, I am gonna do that. Because it looks cool. God, he's actually got white edging on it? Oh, man. Oh, this is a lot more involved than I thought. Whatever, doesn't matter. Okay, so we're gonna very carefully just paint a bit of red on the inside of his coat. And we're gonna try not to. I'm gonna press the brush against that surface, and we're not gonna drag the tip out, because then it'll flick, and it'll coat the other inside surfaces that we painted black. Oh, I should probably mention, yes, I'm using a little miniature holder. It grips it by the base. Huge quality of life improvement. I didn't see the point of them for years, and then I got one as a stocking stuffer one year at Christmas, and yeah, nah, 10 out of 10. Would recommend. It's the one good painting accessory that Citadel makes. Games Workshop makes. All their other shit is superfluous and unnecessary. Do not buy any other crap. Okay, you want those little hobby clippers to get stuff off your sprue? Here's what you buy, okay? You go to Walmart, and for $2, you get these. That's it, just little clippers. Two bucks. Citadel has nice ones. Like Games Workshop, Citadel has nice ones made with like wooden paneling. But those are $40. They're not worth $40. Also, if you can get the miniature holder with the little grabby hands on it, oh, those are great. It like attaches to the bottom here and has little hands that you can use to hold parts in place if you're gluing them. Or what I use them for is when I wash parts, leave them hanging on the little claws to dry. A little bit of fluff on the edge of there. Be very careful about that after you wash and wipe off your brush. There's a little piece of fluff on the end of it. Just kind of remove it before you load up with paint again. Because there's nothing worse than getting a piece of dust worked into your paint on the surface, and then it's on there and you can't get it off without destroying your paint job. It is not great. I'm just going to touch up this edge. Yeah. Just touch it up a little bit. Let's clean up the mess. And they're just mostly good. You may see me doing weird shit with my fingers. Okay? That's not a secret technique. That's just me. Okay, but different people got their weird, different ways of doing this stuff, and mine is holding stuff in weird ways. The way my brain works. Do whatever works for you. There's no correct way to. There's some techniques that are more effective than others. There we go. Teachers told you that you wouldn't have a calculator with you in real life when you had to do math. Well, guess what? That was bullshit. Okay? Some people tell you gotta hold the miniature up the right way, up the proper perspective the whole time you're painting it. Nah, it's bullshit. It's your miniature, it's your paintbrush. You turn that shit however way you want to paint it. Whatever gets it on the surface the right way. Which leads into another important topic. Assembling before or after you paint it. I like a mix of the two. I do like sub-assemblies, as you may have seen when I pulled out this one earlier. So I painted all the legs individually, just the base coats, before I actually attached it to the regular base. This bit here, the hips, that all four of them connect to, was painted separately, completely detailed separately. Once the legs were on the base, I detailed all of them. Then I put that on. We're not going to talk about this boy right here. We're not going to mention that at all in the nightmare that was. and continues to be. And then I assembled those. It's whatever you figure you can get the paint on without actually putting together. Like for an example, Space Marines, I guess, is one of the most popular examples out there. I would, and this guy's sealed. I can touch him however the hell I want. In fact, I can even pop him straight off the base because it's magnets. I put a little magnet on the bottom of his booty. Look at that. Boom. This guy actually painted the legs separately, then put them on underneath his cloak. His cloak was painted separately while it was attached to the torso. Backpack and the arms were assembled completely separately from each other, painted, and then attached. The head always gets painted on its own. That's just the way I do it. Because that's what works for me. But for the most part, for Space Marines, paint the arms separately. The legs, the torso can be put together. Backpack you can paint technically on them. It's not that bad to paint actually while the arms are on, depending on your color scheme. Or while the arms are off, even. And the heads I always have on a separate pin. I call it a pin. It's actually I can't find any of them right now. What I do is I clip off a little piece of sprue, and I glue the head to that. Okay, next. Edge that in a little bit of white. So for edging, what you want to do is you want to get as little on your brush as possible. Dab it off, keep the brush somewhat wet, and just on the side, you just want to press it to an edge and just drag. You just want to be light with it. You gotta be gentle with it. Put too much, it's gonna come off super heavy. And if you don't put any at all, it's not gonna come off. You gotta be very careful. And just like that. You don't have to do it in one stroke. Take your time, you can do multiples. Depending on what it is, you might do. I think the craziest one I ever did was a bit of edge highlighting I was doing for a contest I must have done. Fucking 15 times I went over it. Several different layers of color. I just wasn't happy with the way it was reflecting light, you know? Because these tiny models, they don't, especially if you're going for the fancier effects, they don't reflect that much light because they're so small. So really that's why, especially the heavy metal style, it is focused entirely towards emphasizing the highs in the recesses. Just to really make them stand out. And touch up that spot, I made another mistake, but it's fine. Always touch this stuff up after. That's it, you just do light touches across the edge. Don't gotta do it in one, that's fine. Don't gotta be fancy about it. And it's just one of those things that comes with practice. That little bit of motor skill. Which is why I say to do all your base coating first. I am haphazard and all over the place because, well, that's just kind of what works for me. Well, figuring out what works for you. Actually, you know what? Because the coat folds go out there, there, and there, I'm going to go over those in red. Because that would make sense if the inside of the coat's red. Or actually, no, I actually have a coat like this. It's purposefully the same color. It's actually designed to do that. Alright, no, we're not going to go over that in red. Actually, you know what? We will. We'll go over one in red. We'll see how that looks and what I think is okay. Yeah, we're gonna keep the red. We're gonna do that in red. If I didn't like it, I could just go back over it in purple. But I do like it, so we're gonna keep it. Yeah. Yeah. That's probably not gonna be my best work, but whatever. There's gonna be like 20 of this guy on the field anyway. I'm painting this guy as a nice little relaxation piece. Take a break from Illuminator Sarah's over there, who was giving me a headache, but is still a fantastic model and is interesting to paint. Man, I kind of want the Silent King. Nobody's seen that. Big angry Terminator robot on a floating throne, looking down at everybody in disdain. Two regular-sized Terminator robots as a for scale. I'll show you how big this big boy is. No, never really wanted a Necron army, but I kind of read some of their lore. They're just kind of they're the grumpy old man of the Warhammer universe. They already fought their war. They technically won by running away. Now they just want everybody to get off their lawn because they got woken up from their nap. Oh, bolt guns, that's adorable. Yes, observe as our most basic gun obliterates your most advanced tank. I guess is what happens when you have guns that can just disassemble shit at the atomic level. Like, it's comedic how advanced they are compared to everybody else in 40k. The only reason nobody had been able to beat them is because, or anybody could even beat them, was because, well, they were all busy infighting and still half asleep. But now the Silent King's back, and I haven't been keeping up with the lore, outside of whatever I see from the models. Touch that up with some for later. I'll touch up my little spot right there. Yeah. There, you won't even know. Never even know. Okay. Yeah, he's coming along. Look at that. He's got a bit of character now. Yeah. Yeah. Alright. So let's do his eyes. So he's got a little entire inner surface here is black. We'll go around that. Just very carefully, just little dabs at a time. I don't know, whenever I do this, I keep my black real watery. Just so it flows a little better. Black's a very, very strong, very heavy color. It'll quite happily go on to whatever surface you're trying to put it on. Who the fuck? Yeah, my phone is Dio. Shut up. Very rude. I should have my phone on silent. There we go. My apologies about that. Mind you, Discord's still getting picked up, but yeah, this bit's gonna be a bit more annoying. That's the only thing about Sodapop Games, is they pre-assemble their miniatures. This arm is actually a separate piece. The gun there? Or no, the head's a separate piece. Yeah. So I would have actually painted the head on this separately. As I said earlier with my sub-assemblies. Ah, no, those grooves aren't black. It's fine. That's okay. No harm done. Those grooves are actually a nice neon blue. We'll get to that. We will get to that. There, okay. So now we're going to take our Meridius Blue, Temple Guard Blue if you insist on buying from G-Dubs. The lid to this is screwed, so I gotta be very careful because it is no longer on a hinge. Take a little bit. Put that little bit there. And we're gonna very carefully put the lid back on. There we go. Okay. Alright. And we're just gonna go after the right size. Just like that. And a piece of fluff that I saw on my brush. Get rid of that. Sometimes it works its way into the bristles. You don't notice until it's way too late. Okay, and there's one eye done. To wet the brush a little more. We're gonna very, very carefully get the other eye. As I cover all that recess, I just went over in black. Perfect. Perfect. Now, I'm gonna blame Sodapop Games for that. And then we'll fill in this little recess that I painted black earlier. So one thing you can do if you're painting, you want to paint neon blues, is paint, as I said earlier, paint whites under that. You want that white to shine through. So that's one of the colors that is very effective to do. Or you can blend the shit out of it. Layer the shit out of it. I think next week I might do our next painting stream, probably do a tutorial on like lenses, scopes, jewels, who knows. A friend of mine's having a bad day. And we're all having bad days. All we gotta do is take them as they come. Can't stay bad forever. Hide in your room and paint little cartoon cowboy priests when you're having a bad day. I had a scary day the other day when a fucking breaker blew up on me at work. Yeah, that was fun. Coworker closed up a cabinet and bang. Big scare. So does he got little... He's got little LEDs on his sleeves, what? I'm not painting those. Nah. No, I refuse. Nah, not painting that. That's dumb. Paint the eyes. I'll take a little bit of white. Okay. Mix that with our blue. Mm-hmm. Put on a bit more white. Yeah, I'm just not even wiping off the brush before I mix in other colors. Fight me. Too much white paint anyway, it's watery as hell. No one will know. No one will see. Just put it again. Right there in the middle. Yeah. And we'll just do a very light touch in the recess. Try and keep it to the deepest part. And get over here. Oh man, it's so bad I actually can't get a light in there. I can still see. A little bit in there. A little bit in there. Touch that again. And there we go. He's got a little bit of character in his eyes. Look at that. Yeah. Yeah. And then his blaster is going to have a little bit in the muzzle. So we'll go back into the base colors. And then we'll touch up the sides here. And we'll just paint. We'll just do the entire little side knob. Yeah. Yeah, just like that. That was nice. Could go over the top and paint the. You know what? Yeah, I'm gonna paint these little grooves. These little grooves are gonna get some blue too. And we'll just afterward. We'll just go over the raised areas with black again. That's what we'll do. That's the kind of wacky, cheesy sci-fi ray gun that I want. The only thing that it's missing is a little dial that is stun, kill, and solve all immediate problems. Okay. We'll pop back into our lighter blue. We'll breathe a little bit of life into those. I don't know, glowy effects they're tricky. Take a little bit of practice to get good at. And even then, ultimately, it's unfortunately that's really a study in material and lighting. Like the most iconic one I can think of, the one that I worked on was plasma guns. I love my plasma guns. Warhammer, right? And contrary to popular belief, it is not actually the raised coils that are the brightest part of the plasma gun. Those would actually be the color. The actual brightest part would be the core, where the actual plasma itself is. Finger stretches, knuckle cracks. Contrary to popular belief, cracking your knuckles is not bad for your joints. Alright, touch up with black. Touch up with black. On the ray gun. Just on those raised surfaces. Let's clean that up. Just for whatever looks good. Just remember, ultimately, it's still your taste. I said you paid a lot of money for these. You wanna let them look good in a way that you appreciate, that you like, not what somebody else tells you it should be. It's always one of my biggest pet peeves. Somebody's like, "Ah, you painted that wrong." I'm like, "Nah, I painted it right. Just didn't paint it the way that you like." Some people get mad that I put like green cloaks and what have you on my Space Wolves. Well, guess what? They're my Space Wolves. I like green. I'm putting green on them. I know it's not the best for that color scheme, but I don't care. It's what I like. And at the end of the day, it's your board game, it's your army. Paint it the way you want. Constructive criticism is always appreciated, though. Like, oh, well, if you really want to do that effect in a particular way, I'd recommend this. Somebody's like, yeah, but I like the way that this turns out. I'm like, alright, cool. You do you. And if I like the way somebody does their effect, I always ask them about it. Feels good when somebody acknowledges that you put a lot of effort onto one of these. Oh man, he's feeling real jokery. No, not jokery. You ever, fuck, what's that band? The Ghost? Yeah, it's Ghost. Go look up, right now, go look up, Ghost song, Square Hammer, I think it's called. And it's just this Lawbot's face is reminding me a lot of the way the guy's got the skeleton makeup. Yeah. Alright. We're gonna go over a couple of the edges here, really make them pop. Little cartoon black lines. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna put a bit of black on the brush, keep the brush nice and wet. There isn't black in those grooves around his ears, so we're not done with my blues. So we'll get back to that in a minute. But same principle applies here. I guess with these blue, brush nice and wet. Just a little bit of paint on the tip, and just very carefully in those recesses. And again, this is a thing that comes with practice. With your brush control, your point control. Basics are the most important thing. Which is why I do not skimp when you are first starting out in the hobby on your base coating. Okay? Don't do it. You will have bad miniatures when you start. We all do. Some people still do years later. But you try, you get better. Apparently those contrast paints are pretty good if you just want something that looks halfway decent. Whatever you do, don't be the person who shows up to the game store with the gray horde. You're just the worst. You are the worst if you do that. Fuck, back in the days of late 7th edition, we had one guy who showed up. The man needed to field an Imperial Knight. The man needed to field this $200 model. In fucking 700 point games. Because you couldn't play small games with them. You always had this fucking Imperial Knight, which at the time was viewed as largely unkillable and just not fun to play against, because it was a walking, that squad is no longer there unit, right? And it was a pain in the ass to kill. So I list tailored. Oh, also worth noting, this guy was a wallet warrior. He bought whatever army was the new hotness at the time that had the most broken rules. This guy must have dropped like a couple thousand a month, or every couple months, just to make his new unbeatable internet list army. So as I said, I list tailored. Your army is going to revolve around one asset. I am going to tailor to kill that one asset. And the Space Wolves were a flexible enough army that you could just do that. They were weird. Everybody thinks that they're an angry melee army. Nah. They are actually a very versatile. If you want to sit here and shoot, we can do that. And I will move in and cut you while you do that. Or if you're going to try to get in and cut me, I'm going to gun you down before you get there type army. However, in 7th edition, there was a particularly funny strat that I called, yo, fuck that guy. And it was using a particular formation that basically let me fire all the weapons in a particular unit twice, and they automatically arrive from Deep Strike on turn 1 with no mishaps. And I drop a bunch of very big, angry, armor-piercing weapons right up this dude's asshole, and I melt his Imperial Knight on turn 1. 3 weeks in a row. And he got very angry about this. And he couldn't do anything about it. That's the problem with these wallet warriors, right? Is that they don't know how to play the game. They know how to play a list. And the problem with playing a list is I don't need to beat you. I just need to beat your list. Don't be that guy. Okay? You're getting into these war games right at the start, you're gonna lose. You're gonna lose left, right, and center. Until you figure out what strategy works for the way you think. I'm painting off camera again. Okay? Now, the only reason I was even got half the victories that I did was because people weren't expecting me to play my list the way that I did. I was the dude who in a 500, to put it in scale, contrary to what everybody thinks, 40k is a small scale skirmish game, okay? 2,000 points is big for 40k. It's also tournament sized. I like 500 to 750. That's my ideal size. It's enough that you actually have to think about what choices you're going to take, and you have to be very careful about how you're going to field them. And my dumbass takes 300 points worth of heavy weapons. That is 2 full heavy weapon crews in a 500 point game. Now, why is that an issue? Because heavy weapon crews are small. For that same price tag, I probably could have taken in fully kitted out like 3 tactical squads. Had 3 times as many dudes. But I make those big guns work for me. I make them make the enemy keep their head down. Excuse me. I don't know. The ratio I've seen purported several times is about 40% heavy weapons, 40% fast attack, and 20% troops. And fast attack guys you want out there to get objectives and control the board, your heavy weapons to support them, and then your troops to move around and hold objectives after the fact. I'm normally around 60 to 50% heavy weapons on my list. Like 10% fast attack, and then the rest of it troops and transport. Just because I like big gun. Big gun works for me. And it's just like painting. It's whatever works for you, right? Okay, just gonna fill this in. I decided there's little indented crosses on the coat. I decided I'm gonna fill those in with black. I don't know why it looks like it so far. I gotta fix that. I think I'm gonna try and adjust the camera angle and resolution. So I think I have it set to like super wide lens right now. Let's see, what do we got here? That's okay. If I bump you down to that is a lot smaller. looking alright? Is that blurry? I can scale you up a little bit. Yeah, okay, that looks better to me. Yeah, okay, we might keep that. Yeah, you can see little black recesses on that now. Okay. Alright. Yeah, okay, I like this a bit better. I don't know, we're gonna play around with it. I'm not a professional. I'm not a professional streamer. I can afford to play around. I'm not fighting an algorithm every week. I'm doing this for fun. I'm doing this to force myself to get back into the hobby because I fell off the wagon. I'm trying to get back on. I haven't painted in a couple months. Just haven't been feeling it, which is, you get into that hobby slump sometimes. Sometimes it lasts for a couple weeks. Sometimes it lasts for, I know one guy who's been there for a year now. And you just gotta do what you can to get back on the horse, as it were. Yeah, just very lightly go over give it a little bit of black line work, just like he's a cartoon. Just to emphasize those little edges and creases. I'll put a small one right there. Yeah, maybe a bit further. Yeah, it's a big line, it needs a big crease. Okay, yeah, I like that. Do it on this side too. We'll do it on that side too. Remember, there's going to be the most pigment where your brush stroke ends. So if you want the heavier, darker line higher up, stroke up. Brush goes up. It's too much paint. I want less paint. Yeah, there we go. Just like that. Perfect. It's not perfect, but that's fine. You can't tell. And neither will anyone else when I have this on the table. They're just going to be happy that they have nice painted miniatures to play with their game. When lockdown's finally goddamn over. I can see the boys again. I can see my little niece. My sister doesn't have a kid, but my best friend does, and that man might as well be my brother. So, he has dubbed me Unky Reed. For his wee lass. Oh, it's adorable. She's actually got her dad's smile. Straight up, he sent me, when she was no longer in potato stage of being a baby. He sent me this one photo and she's got this little smirk, and I'm like, ah, shit. That's the smirk that he had back during orientation week when I first met him. Oh no. Oh, that's his kid. We're just gonna do quick lines between the fingers. Don't gotta be perfect. Quick and dirty. On the back of the neck to separate it from the coat. Now you could do this with a wash. You just go over the layer with the wash, but then you gotta clean up your wash edges, clean off your brushes. Sometimes you gotta go over surfaces again. So I've been trying to challenge myself and not use washes recently. We'll just clean up a couple spots that I missed there. There we go. There we go. Yeah, looking good. We'll highlight the top of, well, not highlight, but like edge the top of the top hat. Actually, this is going well considering I put way too much water on this palette. So if you don't want to actually drop $20 on a wet palette, you can make one using a plastic tub, a sponge, and some rice paper quite effectively. And yeah, just the water should be about halfway up the sponge, well below the rice paper, or whatever you happen to be using. The red grass one comes with some proprietary hydration paper. It's like rice paper plus. Semi-water resistant. More water resistant than regular paper, but enough that it still lets some water through. I'm just touching up the purple. Okay. I'm not gonna call them done, I don't know, I might add some more details later. But I'd say that's pretty good for this stream. Let's put an hour and a half. Yeah. Actually, you know what? He needs a little bit of silver. He needs a little bit of silver on some of his fittings, so we're gonna break out some pig iron, private tier press. I'm not going to use that on the wet palette because it doesn't thin well. I have yet to find a metallic paint that actually thins well water, because you always just wind up with sparkly water. So we're just gonna touch his buckles, little rivets. Little raised rivets on the cross on his hat. He's got two little rivets on his back. We're gonna touch up. Maybe we'll put a little bit on his belt buckle. So I think I'm gonna paint my chemical containers next time that I was working on, or planning to work on. Like I said, I got the little empties bottles on standby. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna slice them along there, put the cap on top. Got about 4 of them. I got some straws, some modeling putty, put in a little bit of pipe work, and yeah, easy peasy. Nice little chemical storage terrain. Alright, a little bit on it. Right there on the buckle. Just a touch. Just enough to make it shiny. There we go. You know what, I'm gonna take a little bit of black and I'm gonna edge a bit more of that hat, because I realized that inner groove where the white meets the purple, I did not put a little line there. So we're gonna do that real quick. I'm gonna do that real quick, and then we'll call it a stream. So just real delicate like. No, 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 I almost dropped that. Okay. Easy. Easy. No rushing. Rushing is how we make mistakes. Not happy mistakes either. There we go. There is no rush. Just smooth little line. And get there too one day. Takes some practice. Experiment. As said, Reaper miniatures, well, even Dungeons and Dragons proper now makes some very reasonably priced miniatures. Come pre-primed too. Mold lines like a motherfucker though. Like mold lines like you wouldn't believe. Actually, pretty average mold lines now that I think about it relative to Reaper. But like it's pre-primed, so you gotta scrape them off, and then you're gonna have to reprime that bit. I'll touch a map right there. I could use some more black on it. Very carefully, very delicately. There we go. Beautiful. Well, there we go. One robo sheriff, who's maybe a priest. And we'll do some shading and highlighting on him next time. Who knows? Alright. That's been fun. I hope you all have a quiet night. Stay safe out there. We unfortunately live in interesting times. Good night.